All right, and we are live.
All right, thank you, Olivia. Welcome, everybody. It is Monday, April 27th. Thanks for joining us for another COVID-19 update. We actually also are going to work into today's briefing a number of non-COVID related items. I wanted to start with the incident that took place last night on North Avenue, where the city saw a homicide. It happened in the late night hours, and the police right now are still investigating. I did just want to, there's a fair amount that we still don't know and can't fully report. But I did, anytime there's a homicide in Burlington, these are rare events. They are tragic and they are concerning when they happen. My thoughts, and I know the thoughts of the whole cities, are with the victim and the victim's family. And I know there's also a great desire for swift resolution and justice, and that's what our police department is working on. The investigation remains in the early stages at this point. However, we do have strong reason to believe that this was not a random act. The information gathered so far strongly suggests that the individuals involved were known to each other, and we are following up on a number of leads. If you do you have any information related to this, it is requested that you be in touch with the Burlington Police Department. The police department is excellent in its investigations and follow-up after a matter like this, and we have a lot of confidence they will bring this investigation to a resolution quickly. We'll have more information to share soon, we hope, and we'll share it as we have it. Now, I would like to turn to the some business before the City Council tonight. We have a couple of items that are, in a sense, airport-related items, and the first one is a lease with Beta Technologies. And Beta is a company that you may have heard they've been in the news a little bit. It's still a company that's been in the startup early phases, and there has not been a lot of discussion, certainly not as much discussion as frankly I think is warranted for a company that's trying to do what Beta is attempting to accomplish. They have been operating out of the Burlington International Airport since 2018, and the reason they are on the council agenda tonight is we are asking the council to approve a lease between the airport property, a hangar out at the airport, and Beta. And it is a multi-year lease for 41,125 square feet. And it is a lease that will facilitate Beta making very substantial investments in the hangar, really improving the city's property there, and more excitingly, hopefully creating the home that will ultimately grow into a major Chittenden County, Burlington employer, and that what this group is working on there, what they're trying to do is really quite revolutionary. They are trying to build the first commercial electric airplane, and they're in a race against scores of other companies around the world, but they have continuously been doing very well in that race over a couple of years now. And this lease today is a sign of just how well they're doing, and that they're getting to the place of, even amidst the great financial uncertainty of this economy, getting to a place where they can make more significant investments in this community. So with that, I believe we have Kyle Clark, the founder of Beta Technologies, on the line, and Kyle's going to share some more. Kyle, are you there?
I'm here, sir. How are you?
I am great. I'm so excited to have you join us today. Welcome, and thank you for what you've already done out at the airport, and very excited to hear your plans for the months ahead. We also have Gene Richards, the aviation director for the Burlington International Airport, is with us, and Gene's been very involved in this partnership as well. And Kyle, I'll let you take it over from here.
Excellent. Thanks a bunch. Yeah, we're thrilled to be here, and I'll try to be efficient with time. And I could spend a whole bunch of time thanking Gene and the mayor for getting this facilitated and kicked off. But Beta Technologies, we're a small company. We're a 70-person company located obviously over at the airport. And on the screen right now on the far left is the world's largest eVTOL aircraft to have ever flown. And it was flown at the Burlington Airport almost 2 years ago. And that kicked off a pretty interesting journey that just came to another milestone in flying the new largest aircraft, all powered by battery and electricity, in the center screen there. And then on the far right is a picture of the world's first megawatt scale recharging pad. And we've been incredibly fortunate in finding customers that have been supporting our development of the aircraft and the recharging pads, and an entire training center, being the first electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft granted the right to issue letters of authorization for pilots to actually fly these things. So our journey is just starting, but wanted to kind of walk through a couple things about the company and what we're doing off the airport. If you can advance the slides, Olivia, that'd be great. So our mission is to revolutionize air travel and do it in a way that's sustainable and conserves natural resources. Our first customer is moving organs and tissues. Our next customer is moving cargo. And then we get down to moving people and other supplies. We're a company that has very, very simple values of simplicity, respecting physics. We're all engineers, encouraging creativity and perseverance, which gets us to the front of the pack. And if you can hit the next slide here. And just a quick example of that, although I didn't want to get too far into COVID response, we have a group of engineers who quickly pivoted from designing aircraft to designing, testing, and working through accelerated life cycle testing and FDA compliance of an emergency ventilator, initially for the state of Vermont. And then it likely will be deployed over in Africa and in South America as well. And there's a bunch of local companies that have contributed to this, with assembly happening over at the airport right now. And inside this ventilator is a whole lot of parts that were initially conceived and designed for the airplanes that you saw in the first slide. So I guess the next thing we'll move on to, if we can go to the next slide here, is what we're doing with this building in collaboration with the airport. This building had been housing the maintenance department at the airport, snow removal equipment and other things. And hopefully in the future, we can turn it into something that will house Beta Technologies, a flight training center, and some pretty advanced laboratory space for developing the aircraft. So this is one view of the building from the tarmac side. And if we flip to the next slide, Olivia, this is what people see when they leave the Burlington Airport. And it's kind of a drab aggregation of different building styles up against the necessary airport fence without a whole lot of attention recently. So our vision, if you can go to the next slide, please, is to provide an elegant facade to the front of this building, the front being the road side, at about 35,000 square feet to the building across two full levels and one third level. And this is after major renovations to the balance of the building that include the majority of the dough going into heating, ventilating, air conditioning, insulation, roof work, and a lot of landscaping. And if we can hit the next slide, this nicely shows the building from the southwest, which right now is a corrugated tin building And we will put white metal paneling and Corten steel. Those are watered down spouts. The theme being simple, elegant, and functional, and not very audacious, kind of like the pragmatic spirit of Vermont. And click to the next slide, please. And from the air side, the hangar will get glass all along the back, fire-rated glass, actually glass all along the right side. And in the left side, in phase 4 of the program, we will upgrade the entire inside of the building. And if we go to the next slide, please. Up in the top area, there's a large conference and training center adjacent to a electric helicopter recharging pad. And a little bit about the electric aircraft. They are obviously emissions free, significantly quieter than traditional helicopters, and they are the future of aerospace technologies. So I think there might be one more slide if I'm not mistaken. Yes, excellent. So then with Hodgson and the team working to really spruce up Airport Drive, a big portion of the budget goes into repaving, changing the lines around the building so they better conform to the shape of the entryway to the airport, and doing some significant landscaping and producing an entryway to the building. So all of this, all in across the 4 phases, about $11 million of investment by us, and obviously that's done in partnership and in close coordination with the airport, so that looking from the terminal, looking to the building as we drive up to the airport, and from the adjacent cemetery over to the right, everything looks better. And internal to that, we grow from about 70 people to about 110 people by the end of the year. And at capacity, we'll have about 150 people in this building. Most not full-time, but a lot coming, they're full-time workers, but some of them will be obviously working remotely and over on the other end of the airport where we do some light manufacturing. So that's the upshot of what we're doing over at the airport, and how we intend to contribute to the growing infrastructure and for lack of a better term, beautification of Airport Drive.
Kyle, that's awesome. Thank you for coming on and sharing all that. I'm sure viewers of this will have many questions jump to mind. I mean, just it's such an exciting vision you've laid out there. Is there anything further that you can say at this point about when you think this aircraft will be something that we actually see flying commercially or regularly in Burlington area or more broadly?
Absolutely. Well, Burlington fortunately has seen the first of its flights, and there's a recharging pad in Burlington. The next one's going to the airport in Plattsburgh, and then one down to Manchester, and then one down to Long Island. And it'll be the beginning of a recharging corridor for sustainable zero emissions aircraft that will be moving medical supplies and organs up and down the East Coast first, all the way down to the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville over the next 2.5 years. And by 2023, we attempt to have a certified aircraft that then can carry organs, tissues, cargo, and eventually passengers. And if we do this right, we will have very quiet aircraft that can take tourists from Stowe to downtown Burlington, from the airport to Hula down on the waterfront, up to the islands in a quiet, sustainable way, and we'll get access to the third dimension of mobility, which is the air. So by 2025 to 2030, I think that we're going to see mobility change, and we would like to be a leader in that.
Awesome. From my rough sense, you are a leader right now. I think many people find it surprising that a small startup company competing against big, well-capitalized operations and other parts. How is it possible to do this out of Burlington, Vermont?
I think the primary thing is the people. We've been quiet and pragmatic about our developments. We were the first company to earn a contract. Our first contract was for $50 million, which is a meaningful contract for a very small company, and that's built into several more contracts that are just as, if not more, meaningful. and that's enabled us to move quickly. And just the straight up pragmatism of the airport, of the city, and the people in the company have unblocked all of the unnecessary challenges. We have enough challenges to deal with in taking motors, inverters, and batteries and putting them in airplanes. And it's just wonderful to not find that friction when we're trying to operate at the airport. When we're trying to find the right people. The state's been great to us. Our senators have been great to us, and that's how we've been able to accomplish a lot in a very short period of time. I was just on a call, a meeting a minute ago with the Air Force, and they cited that each one of these first flights typically costs about $150 million. And we first flighted the aircraft on the left of the first screen for about $1.5 million. And I'm not very good at math, but I think that's about 1/100th of the typical cost.
Wow.
And it's done because of the efficiency and pragmatism of the local community.
Well, that is generous of you to suggest that the airport and the city had a role. Thank you. I think it's a remarkable creativity and vision that I've seen on display anytime I've been out there. But we do have a great pragmatic, get things done aviation director. Gene, thank you for your being committed to getting to this milestone that this lease represents. What else? Is there anything you want to add, Gene, to today's landmark?
Yeah, it's working with Kyle and his team at Beta has been such a gift, not only for the airport, but for the community and for the world. These guys are just thinking about the future and how we're going to make it there safely. And it's, I feel grateful, that we have this opportunity here in Burlington. And, Kyle, Mayor, thank you for allowing it to happen. It will make this airport what it's going to and should be in the future because of the two of you.
And Kyle, just one more thing. We're having this discussion in the middle of this COVID-19 emergency. I'm encouraged and see it as a sign of hope more broadly that you want to move forward and commit to this kind of more than $10 million of investment in the middle of this economic uncertainty. Can you speak to that at all? Are you worried about how this economy might impact the company's plans or the region? What happens to this region? What's your sense of how the broader emergency impacts?
The way that I think about it is it's very simple. We have a job to do, which is to design, build, and certify an aircraft, and the only thing stopping us from doing that is our own hard work, ingenuity, and in some cases finances. But those finances are available. The investment community has shown a keen interest in investing in both us and infrastructure because of the simple math and the longevity of this type of technology. This isn't a one-year stunt. This is a 10-year program to get to the next phase of aviation. The second part of it is that we have decided as a business that we can take two tracks, and I say this to other business owners as well. We can either hole up and try and protect ourselves to ride through the storm, or we can accelerate through it. And to accelerate through it means we need to build other momentums. And building this momentum while people are working remotely, and in some cases hindering their working because of the need to stay safe. We got to get creative, we got to get more visual, and we have to have a heightened level of awareness and communication within the team. And if we all as business owners perpetuate those ideas with our teams, I've found that the camaraderie and the collaboration and the acceleration of the developments while people are remote can actually happen, which has to start with the optimism and the idea that it will. So that perpetuates over to our investors who have committed to backstop this, and of course our customers who have committed to backstop the development of the aircraft. So we've taken accelerate through it, innovate our way through it, and be very, very pragmatic and judicious in the way that we apply the most valuable resource that any one entrepreneur can have, which is time. And we can't lose that. So we're going to accelerate through it.
Well, what a great note to end on, Kyle. Thank you for that. It is that vision of accelerating through this challenging period in our community's history is optimistic. I think what you have done to show that maybe there's a way, that there is a way to continue to have air travel be part of our lives, but to do it consistent with the environmental challenges, the climate emergency that we're facing is another just very hopeful message that your company is delivering. And then finally, it's just great at a time when we're seeing so many jobs lost and so many people out of work, to hear that you are moving forward with plans that would grow your company by the end of the year is just very encouraging. So thank you. I really appreciate being on and doing this today.
Great. Thanks for including us.
Excellent.
Thank you.
We have one other airport item going to the council tonight that I wanted to, there's also very good news that I wanted to share here, which is, and it's a change really, since people who follow the council closely will know that the last council meeting, we approved some short-term borrowing, quite a bit of short-term borrowing for the airport, over $11 million of short-term borrowing for a variety of reasons related to the COVID-19 emergency. One of those was that it was not clear at that point how much federal aid coming. We were hopeful that we would be getting some. In the last couple weeks, that has gotten clearer, and what we can report is that the airport has lost like restaurants, like bars and other travel related industries. The airport has lost a lot of revenue. Many of the revenues, not 100%, but a large percentage of the airport's revenues is driven by travelers flowing through the airport, leaving Burlington, coming back into Burlington. It is that flow of passengers that it drives revenue, and that flow is down dramatically, as everyone knows, about 90%. There are still flights that are coming in and out of Burlington, but they're flying at about 10% what they normally, the passenger load that we normally see. The Federal CARES Act, the $2.3 trillion act that Congress passed about a month ago, recognized that this was happening not just in Burlington's airport, but in airports across the country, and directed $10 billion in economic relief efforts to airports, including, as you can see, there's 7.4 in direct grants. There is a formula that drives how that money is split up. It's based on employment. It's a fairly there's some complexity to it. It has to do with the number of travelers. It has to do with the amount of debt service that the airport has. And it wasn't immediately clear how much money would be flowing to Burlington, but it has been clarified now. We are expecting $8.7 million in federal funding from that CARES grant, and the council tonight is being asked to essentially approve that grant and accept it. And that will dramatically help the airport's ability to weather this financial challenge that the emergency so far has created. There is a requirement of accepting that grant, which is a requirement we're happy to meet, which is that it requires the airport to continue to employ at least 90% of its employees. And if we do that, there's no local match that's required. So that will be before the council tonight, and we're certainly hopeful that the council will welcome and approve that grant. One other important COVID-related action on the council agenda tonight is a permitting deadline change. In normal times, typically zoning permits, building permits, they have deadlines that need to be met, and if they are not met, those permits expire, and the expiration dates are driven by different. It depends on the permit. There's a variety, but basically, any permit that was in place on March 13th when this emergency began, any permit that was active, we are extending the deadline for 90 days. And for starters, I think it's possible that there might need to be additional extensions, but that is the initial, anyone who had a permit that was active on March 13th can count on a 90-day extension. And this applies to everything from these major projects referenced here on the screen, like the Sarah Holbrook Community Center, had to suspend work during this emergency, to other major projects, to the individual permits that individuals might have for their small home improvement projects. The final topic I wanted to hit on, and we'd be happy to take a couple of questions if there are any, is I wanted to speak to the city's finances and just give a preview of a longer discussion that's going to happen starting at 6 o'clock tonight. We're going to have a public session with the city council to talk about the city's finances and how really our general fund, which is what funds the police and fire and parks and recreation departments and many other, library, pretty much the core city services. That's about a $62 million budget. It's a budget that has been hit quite significantly by the COVID-19 emergency, and we expect those impacts to continue for a considerable period of time, maybe as much as 24 months. And so we have been working on a plan to respond to the emergency, and we're going to start talking with the council tonight again at that public session at 6 o'clock. We are expecting an executive session with the council tonight after that public update. The basic challenge that we're confronted by is that because of that loss of tourist travel, like I was just talking about with the airport, because of the fact that our bars, our restaurants, and hotels are closed or near closed right now, and because we're not getting other revenue of that sort, whether it's marina revenue or visitors at the city's campground, we are expecting $5 million in the remaining months of this fiscal year to be just lost and unrecoverable, and approximately $10 million in FY21 to be in the same place. We, as with the airport, are hopeful that we will get some federal assistance. There is a bill being discussed in Congress right now that one of the big debates of a fourth major relief package from Congress to respond to the coronavirus epidemic. It is clear that there is going to be a major discussion and really debate over whether municipalities and states are funded in that bill. I think the case is pretty clear that municipalities, just like these other industries, need help through this period. If we don't get it, we will have very serious cuts that we will have no choice but to make. And when I say that, I say that knowing that the great majority of peer cities has been reporting the same thing to Congress. We're going to discuss tonight essentially a bad case scenario that assumes the federal government does not make an investment, because we think it's our job, and you've heard me say stuff like this before. I think we have to plan for the worst, or if not the very worst, at least a bad case, while hoping with, in this case, some optimism for better. And we're going to do everything we can, working with our federal delegation, to advocate and secure a better outcome so that we don't have to make these cuts. But we are going to talk tonight with the council about what will happen if that does not work and we do face deficits of this magnitude or lost revenues of this magnitude. more on that at 6 o'clock. I think the last thing I just want to say is, it's a tough way to start out the week talking about budget challenges like this, to talking about a homicide. I do hope that at the same time that we take a little broader perspective and remember, as we start another week in these strange and unsettling times, that we are making progress. It is very clear that the virus levels and new infections are at very low levels here in Vermont right now. We saw the governor, as he, in his language, turned the spigot a quarter turn each of the last 2 Fridays. And I think there's going to be a lot more discussion this week about what further loosening looks like. I hope that people see in the news from the Gene earlier that we are not in this alone, that the federal government is taking extraordinary measures to try to help us through this crisis. And I appreciate Kyle Clark coming on today to show that as bad as this is, there is a lot of hope and strength that continues on in this region despite this broader emergency. So that's where I'll leave it. I'm happy to take some questions, Olivia. There's no one here in the studio, but if you got anyone online, I'm happy to answer some questions.
No questions so far from members of the media. Reminder, if you're a member of the media and have any questions, just submit those by emailing me. Maybe let's give people one more minute. And while we wait, Jean, if you're still there, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add about what's going on at the airport or the CARES Act grant.
Sure. We're very thankful about the grant. Everything that isn't happening at the airport is exactly what's not supposed to be happening. The governor and the mayor have asked that people stop traveling, and they have pretty much done that. We have about 100 passengers a day, and so there's that's success, in the direction that we wanted it to be in, and I think the airport's in a good position that way. And certainly the grant will give us the ability to continue. We have to monitor our finances just like everybody else. This is a really challenging time, as the mayor has said, and we're going to have to really tighten our belts, and everybody's going to have to give a little to move on. And it's going to be a new norm, is what we've been saying here at the airport. We don't know quite what that is or when it will start. But what we do know is it'll be different, and we'll all have to play a role in its success.
Great. Thank you, Jean. Good. Olivia, anything further?
No, no questions from the media coming in. Dan, I do see your question. I will get back to you by email. But I think we are all set for today.
Okay, excellent. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Jean, data team, thanks to them, and we will be back again. Our plan is we're thinking we are likely to have briefings on Wednesday and Friday this week. We'll see how the week evolves, but for now we'll be signing off. Thank you everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.